Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of my podcast. Today's podcast is entitled, Who Are You? And as usual, I'm going to begin this podcast with a quote. When you know who you truly are, the need to compare yourself to others would become highly unnecessary. And that's a quote by Edmund Umbaeka. Now, it's important to know who you are just as important it is to know your why. Your why is like your sense of direction, why I'm doing this and who I'm doing this for. But knowing who you are is equally as important because if you don't know who you are, um, in life, you're gonna come against hardships and you're gonna have to make tough decisions. And if you don't have a clear cut distinction about who you are, what you stand for, your ethics and your morals and stuff like that, it can make the decisions that you have to make in life that much harder. When you know who you are and what you came to do, your why, you're focused, you're driven, past motivation and past, getting in your feelings that you don't want to do something and you just do it because you need to do it, or because you recognize that's a part of being successful, then it'll make our journey through life a whole lot easier. And I'm not saying this just preaching to the choir. A lot of times when I make this podcast, I'm actually preaching to myself, because I go through bouts with all of this stuff that we're talking about. I by no means have all of this stuff down pat, and I'm working on it on a daily basis just like everybody else. But I figured that if I'm going through this, there's somebody else out there that's going through this as well, and we can learn and we can grow together. Um, I've been placed in a position to where I could pass this knowledge on to you guys, and that's what I'm going to do, because I have that opportunity. So we're just going to learn and grow as we go along, practice this stuff daily, and at the end, we'll all achieve our goals. One of the biggest reasons people struggle through life is because they don't know who they are. If you don't know who you are, you will fall for anything, or you will be anything anyone tells you are. If you look at your family history or something, or what society tells you are, and you define yourself by that, and then you start aligning your morals and your values and the things in your life that you're going to use to drive yourself and propel yourself forward, supposedly in alignment with what others have to say about you, then you're not going to achieve what you desire as success, or you determine to be success, because we all have gifts that we're given that are unique to us. So that's why our dreams are different, because we all have talents and gifts that were given to us that are unique. So when you let somebody else tell you who you are or what you can or cannot do, they devalue your gift, because it's not for them. They didn't give you that gift. You know what I'm saying? It's not for them to tell you how to use it, because they didn't give it to you. Now, I'm not saying that mentors or coaches can't come into your life and teach you how to, better your gift or be more strategic about your gift. But it's not for people to come into your life and tell you, oh, don't do this because, you're not that type of person, or don't do that, or, just try to mold you into something that you're not. We need to be coachable. We need to be able to be molded in that mindset in order to get better at who we are and what we do and becoming what we want to become. But we don't need to be so malleable that, out everybody has a say in who we become or how we achieve our goals. We don't need to be taking information from everybody, because everybody is not going to be placed in our life to help us achieve success. There's some people that are placed in our life that are only for a season, that are here to teach us a lesson, to show us what we shouldn't do or where we shouldn't go. And that's the extent of their value or our interaction with them. They're not meant to be in our lives forever. They're not meant to be someone who's, molding us in anything. If anything, they're showing us what not to do and to push us away from the negative influences in our lives. So we have to know who we are and what we stand for, so that when we get into these situations, these peer pressure situations, or these situations where you don't want to be the outlier, because one of the major fears of like any person is to be an outcast or an outlier. A lot of people don't like to exist or thrive outside of the collective. So that's something that you're also going to have to face when you're determining who you are, because the big part of being who you are is not being afraid to stand up for the things that you believe in. Knowing who you are means conceptualizing all the facets of life that comprise your existence and then deciding how that info will shape you in your existence. I know that was a mouthful, but basically what that means is it means taking everything that you've experienced in your life. And when you're a little kid, your mindset really isn't there. But as you move into adolescence and preteen, teen, and adulthood, your mind starts to go to that place. So what I was basically saying when I put that little tidbit of information together was we need to take everything that we have experienced in life, our family history, what we want to do, what we want to become, those who have done those things and who are currently doing them now, the things we read, the things we study, the interactions that we have, the people that come in and out of our life. We need to take all of that stuff and put it together and like lay it out, just lay it out in front of us and pick and choose the things of value. Like, hey, there was a valuable lesson in that. From that, I'm going to decide that one of my morals is I'm not going to stand for anything less than this. Or, this person showed me whatever, and we take our experiences and the things we've learned, the things we've read, the things we've studied, the things people have told us, the lessons we've learned from the good and the bad, and we use all of that stuff to formulate who we are at our core. Meaning, you go into a situation and somebody says, hey, go do this or go do that, but you don't agree with it, at your core, because it's wrong. Or at your core because that's, I'm not saying beneath you, but it's at a lower level than what you've determined is acceptable for you and for what you want to do in your life. So now it makes things a whole lot more easier. When you go into a situation where there may be peer pressure or there may be a sense to follow behind the masses or to not be an outlier, you can look back to your foundation and your principles and be like, hey, this isn't what I stand for. I'm not going to do this. Or these people don't represent the ideals that I hold precious to myself. So let me not associate with those people. And in doing that, we can help steer ourselves away from a lot of negative experiences and a lot of negative interactions. Not saying that there's not a lesson in those negative experiences or interactions, because there's a lesson in everything. But if you don't have to put yourself through it, then why do it? You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about like working out and stuff like that. I believe that we do have to put ourselves through that in order to get better. But I'm saying, like, if we can avoid negative situations or negative interactions, and because we already know that that isn't going to serve us the way that we want it to in our lives, then why put ourselves through it? It's just unnecessary hurt. If just like in the Marines, when they would tell us our pack needs to be a certain weight or it couldn't be no less than that. Like, how does it serve me to throw on 10, 20, 30 pounds more when, that's not required? Now, I'm saying, like, for training and stuff like that, I understand that, we have to realize that life operates at like different levels and spectrums, meaning that in one instance, this can apply, but in another, it may not. Like I'm saying, like, be coachable, but don't be so malleable or so easy to manipulate that the negative forces in this world also have a say in who you become. So there's the dichotomy kind of that exists between the two, where we got to learn who is of value and what is of value, and how to apply it and in what instance. That's another one of the hardships of life, is learning and knowing the difference between what's an investment and what's waste of your time. That's something that I've had trouble with, and I'm getting better at it. But life is a journey, and it's all about the journey, not the destination. When you don't know who you are, you'll be willing to settle for less than you deserve and accept any and everything. This is the best example I could think of is like a lot of us in high school. Um, we're teenagers. We think we know everything. We don't want to listen to our parents. And a lot of times we go into high school, we fall into these groups. And sometimes these groups may participate in activities that are less than beneficial to the direction that we want to go in our lives. Now, I'm not saying that, you don't know who you are, because those circumstances that you face in high school definitely mold you into the person you're going to be in the future. But just using this for an example, say that somebody wants to go do something criminal, something bad. That doesn't serve you. Getting a criminal record, catching a charge, it doesn't fit into your plan for your future. It doesn't help you. It's an unnecessary sidestep toward your goal. Knowing who you are enables you to be a part of that group, have fun and live your life and be your best life and have your best life. But at the same time, it also allows you to step back and say, hey, we're cool, we're friends and all of that type of stuff, but I'm not down with this. I'm not gonna do this because I know that this is gonna serve me. This is detrimental to my future or to where I want to go in life. And a lot of times people can change the direction of their life if they just take a step back and for a second just look at where they are and what they're doing. And again, when you're a teenager or a preteen, a lot of us really don't have this level of thinking. There are some out there that do and that realize the importance of, every moment. But for the most part, as teenagers, we're living for the moment. The reality that there's a tomorrow beyond today eludes us. Like we're just living for the moment, like day to day. Um, we need to always have our future in mind, which is why, we talk about having our why, a purpose bigger than ourselves, something that helps to give us drive as opposed to motivation, because motivation is fleeting. It doesn't stay around all the time. So we have to know who we are for those times of difficulty when it may seem that, a decision may be cloudy. By knowing who you are, it makes that decision less cloudy. It clarifies a lot of things because in knowing who you are, you know what you will and will not stand for. It makes your decisions a whole lot easier, which in turn will make life a whole lot easier. Knowing who you are provides you with a compass to navigate through life. Like we just discussed, many of those situations in high school, career path that you're choosing, political parties that you decide to stand behind, organizations you decide to join. Um, Usually, we do these things because those organizations, those groups, those teams, they align with our morals, they align with our values. Knowing who you are can help direct you within these groups and towards these groups. Like, for instance, I knew that I wanted to go into the Air Force at a young age. I always wanted to be a pilot. I didn't know too much about the Air Force, but I knew that I wanted to be a pilot, and I knew that the Air Force was, where pilots came from. I didn't know about the Navy pilots so much. I didn't know that the Marine Corps had pilots, that the Coast Guard had pilots. I just knew the Air Force had pilots, Air Force. So I decided while looking further, I mean, it's in the title. So where else would I go to fly planes? But then I met my best friend in high school. My best friend introduced me to the Marine Corps. And then I started to look at, the Marine Corps and some of their values and what they stand for and their ethos and, you know, just looking at the process of how a Marine is made and how being a Marine is a lifestyle instead of just like an organization. And I felt like being a Marine fit me more so than being an airman. Not saying there's anything wrong with being an airman. I'm the type of person that when somebody comes to me and asks me, what military branch they should join, I believe that there's a branch for everyone. And if you want to join the military, have at it. I'm not saying join the Marines because everybody's not cut out to be a Marine. There definitely is a branch for everyone. So I would do your research, look into it, see how their morals and ethics and their code of conduct and all of that stuff align with who you are and the image you see yourself as or going forth as. It's the same thing in any aspect of life. Going into the military, joining a company, joining an organization, joining a fraternity or sorority. That's why there's so many different ones, because they're all good foundationally. They all have, ethics and morals that we can all get behind. But which organization, lines more so with you as an individual? Meaning like your ethics, your moral code. Like when somebody sees you wearing that uniform or wearing those letters, or when you tell them you work for that company, what do you want to come to mind, about you? Does that company represent you? Like if you say, hey, I'm an airman, does that embody who you are? I'm not saying that the organization makes you. I'm saying that that organization represents the same ideas that you had beforehand and that you presently have. Or maybe it might be a situation where you join the organization and it makes you better at the end of the day. And now you are better for joining the organization. That's a possibility too. But knowing who you are is just a baseline. You can always recreate yourself and better yourself as you go through life, because life is about change. Change is the one constant throughout life. Everything is going to change. So it's I don't want you to take this podcast as, I need to figure out who I am and then bam, like that's what I'm going to hold until the day I die. No, life is all about change. So, get in where you fit in, figure out your morals, your values, get your compass, head towards true north, and then follow it, just go all the way through and enjoy the journey. Be who you want to be, not what someone else tells you to be. No one else should have the pen to your story. It is your story. At the end of the day, you control what characters are in it. You control where you go, the highs, the lows, the journey, the monsters you fight, the battles, how long you stay in the conflict. It's all up to you. You should not let somebody come into your life and tell you what you can and cannot do and who you are or who you aren't. Now, being coachable is something totally different. A coach is or a mentor is there to help you to better yourself. Like they might look at you and see, hey, these are your strengths, but these are also your weaknesses. And then they try to work with you in order to improve upon your strengths and to bring your weaknesses up into your strengths or less of a weakness. But there are some people who are going to come into your life who are just going to try to belittle you, who are just going to try to weigh you down and tell you what you can and cannot do because they don't want you to see you succeed. They for some reason in their life they're not where they want to be. They may not be happy. They might have let somebody else have the pen to their story, and now they're jaded or upset because of that fact. So now they're trying to tell you who and what you can be. So you don't need to let other people tell you who you can be. You need to determine who you are and then carry yourself throughout life as such. When you know who you are, you achieve a confidence and a peace of mind that is unshakable. Confidence is silent. When you know who you are, you can go into any situation and you're perfectly fine. Like before I joined the Marines, I knew who I was. I had already been through high school, which was a military high school, my college, which was a military college, which I basically had boot camp for a year. And then I was going to the Marines, which was 13 weeks of basic training. I knew who I was, and at the time, I was the man. You couldn't tell me nothing. I was ready to go to the Marines. I largely went to the Marines because the recruiters issued me a challenge. Everywhere else I went, they were like, "Yeah, you would be a good fit." This, that, and the third, kind of hyping me up. But the Marines was like, I mean, well, you can attend boot camp, and if you make it, should you make it, you'll be able to be a Marine. And that should you make it, that was a challenge to me. And I kind of had a chip on my shoulder when I was younger, so I saw that challenge, and I was like, all right, I signed on the dotted line because of that challenge, because I knew who I was. I'm a person that seeks out challenges because I just like to face challenges. I mean, that's just who I am. Um, I'm not the type of person that sits back in the office and just chills on the computer all day. Like, I got to be out there moving and doing something, productive, working my body out, going to past the point of fatigue, mental fatigue, physical fatigue, being tired, being up 14 hours. And, I like that type of stuff. Nobody likes it in the moment, but, after it, you get a sense of achievement that is better than, just living a life not lived. And that's what you got to determine for yourself. Like, what do you like? What drives you? What motivates you? What makes you feel alive? And and when you determine that, what are the type of decisions and the lifestyle that you need to live, and the morals and ethics you need to have, and all of that type of stuff. Just like I was talking about earlier, you need to combine all of this stuff to make you, so that it could drive you into a career that you won't just be doing for the money, but you'll be doing because you enjoy it. Because a large part of your life you're going to be working, whether it's for yourself or for an organization. So you might as well do something that you love. You might as well live a life well lived. So knowing who you are is a great way to start living that life well lived, because you know what you will and will not do, what you enjoy and don't enjoy, your strengths and weaknesses, and you can use that to carry you into one direction or another. Knowing yourself means knowing who you are and what you represent, knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. Now, one of the things that I've always carried on my shoulders is my identity within my family. So I'm the oldest of my generation, and my great grandfather, well, one of the oldest, and my great grandfather sat me down and before he died, or some years before he died, and he told me the importance of, like, my family name and who I am, and how I shouldn't do things in life that would dishonor my family, and that I should respect my mother, my grandmother, and my grandfather, and look after them and look after my brothers. And my great grandfather would have these talks with me at a really young age that really affected me. And for some reason, I carried that chip. That was one of the chips I carried on my shoulder all through life. I was always trying to outdo last year, or outdo last month, or outdo this person or that person, because I was always trying to make my family proud. At the end of the day, that was my why. I was doing things for my family so that my family would have honor, and I would feel like I was bringing my family honor. And I faced a large hurdle in my life when my grandfather died, because that's who I associated, that's what I was chasing. I saw my grandfather as such a great man that, I was always trying to chase, his achievements and his stories, and try to be half the man that he was. And when he died, I felt like, my, like, that little gem that was held up in front of me was gone. So I kind of went through a period where I felt like, why, what am I doing? Like, everything, my best years have been behind me. I've done everything I'm gonna do, and I kind of got into, like, down on myself in a depression. But then I refocused my why. I had my two daughters, and that's given me life. And then I faced some challenges in my life willingly and unwillingly, and that's also given me life too. And it's made me better, the negatives and the positives. So now I'm able to move into a new stage of life where my grandfather isn't my focus. I'm thankful for him being in my life and the time that I had with him. But that phase of my life is over, and I've moved into a new phase where I'm thankful for what he's done, and he's largely made me the man that I am today. But I'm focused in a different direction now, and recreate myself yet again. Let's see. So all in all, this will enable you to be a better person for yourself and others around you. Identifying your strengths and weaknesses, what you will and won't stand for, your ethics, your morals, all of that stuff is going to determine, where you go in life. Because we need to have this stuff ingrained in us almost down to our subconscious level. So when it comes to making a choice, it won't even be a difficult one. Like, you won't even have to think about it. And you'll be like, oh no, I don't stand for that. I don't want to align with that. I don't want to be associated with that. That's not me. And that's kind of the hardship that I had when I was going through school, public school anyways, is because I wanted to be associated with, ideals or images that didn't necessarily fit me. So there was a little bit of a turmoil or a controversy in who I was, who I was trying to be, and who I thought, who I actually was, who I was trying to be, and what I really was. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining that well enough, but I was trying to be something that I wasn't, and that was conflicting with who I actually was. Because I mean, I was just engaging in some things that was, I don't want to say beneath me, because I'm not above anybody or, anything like that. But I'm just saying it was certain activities that weren't necessarily in line with what I was trying to achieve. It would have been very easy for me to take a side road that may have jeopardized my career or put me on a different track than the track that I was on. Um, and the conflict was, I knew who I was, but I was just trying, it was that peer pressure. I knew who I was, I knew what I stood for. But at the end of the day, it was that peer pressure that was kind of getting me at that young age where you're easily influenced, and things things come into your life and leave out of your life without much thought. But this podcast was just something to get you guys thinking. I hope it's something that really hits home, something that you'll replay over and over again and listen to and get something from it. Because you got to know who you are. Because if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.